Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisholm, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. Hey everybody, John Chisholm here with a very special edition of the Song Revolution podcast. It's always great to have you here, and I just know you're going to love today's show with songwriter, worship leader, and amazing vocalist Meredith Andrews. Meredith has been a part of vertical worship for a lot of years, but she's recently made the big move to Nashville, where she leads at a church called the Belonging Co., and where she's recorded her brand new EP called Faith and Wonder, releasing March 8th. This EP is a great worship experience, just like you'd expect from Meredith, but she did have a lot of great support from her producer, her husband, Jacob Suter, and from some great co-writers on this project like Mia Fields and Phil Wickham. Meredith and I go deep in this podcast to talk about the challenges of ministry, and especially the challenges you face when you're serving a mega church and having a global ministry while trying to manage marriage and family responsibilities. Meredith is part of the Word Worship roster of songwriters and worship artists, and we're also welcoming Word Worship as a new sponsor here on the show today. We're partnering with Word Worship over the next few months to bring you some of their amazing artists and songwriters, so be sure to jump over to wordworship.com to check out all the great people that they work with and to take advantage of some great worship resources that they offer there at wordworship.com. If you've listened to any Christian music in the last 5 years, you probably already know and love Meredith Andrews' stellar voice. But now you can get a peek into her real life and what it's like to be an in-demand worship leader. I've loved her voice and ministry for a long time, and it's my privilege to bring you a great interview today with this amazing worshiper and artist and our new friend, Meredith Andrews. Well, great. Well, Meredith Andrews, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thanks, John. Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, I just admired your ministry, love what you do. I heard you at Church in the City a couple of years ago. You were,
yeah.
I know you're at Belonging Co. now, but one day you led at Church of the City, and it was just wonderful.
We loved Church of the City. We were there for about a year. Such a great church, such a great group of people.
It really, really is. And just dynamic. Darren is awesome. Pastor Darren.
Yeah.
So many great people. But you're at Belonging Co. now, right? And that's where the new record was recorded?
Yes, that's right. At Rocket Town,
How fun is that?
Yeah.
Now, how did you wind up there?
So, well, I mean, that's kind of a long story. But so my husband and I were on staff at a church in Chicago for 10 years.
Right.
With vertical worship. And we moved to Nashville 4.5 years ago, but we remained on staff at Harvest. So we were going up. I was going up about twice a month. Jacob was going up once or twice a month. And but we just really needed community. You know, we were like, God, you called us to Nashville. We need people. Where are our people? We started going to Church of the City, and I remember that was such a season of healing for us, because it had just been, you know, we had been on staff at a church for so long, but on top of that, I was traveling the other weekends that I wasn't at church. So we just felt exhausted and worn out and burned out, you know, and my husband and I were walking through a hard season in our marriage. We were about to have our third child. We had just moved to Nashville. Everything felt really hard and heavy. And, so we started going to Church of the City, and we'd literally go in, sit on the back row, and I would weep through the whole service, like for probably, 2 months in a row. But you know, when you just are in that place where you need refreshing and you need refilling, and that's where I was. So I always look at Church of the City as being like a hospital for me, you know. It was like where I went to get well again, you know. And but around that, I guess, like, let's see, it would have been, spring of 2015, I think. God just started doing some stuff in my husband and in me, and just like deep work and refining and teaching us. I mean, getting us to a place of walking by faith like we had never been before. And like even doing miracles in our lives, a miracle in our marriage, miracle in our finances. I mean, it was just crazy. It was like everywhere we turned, God was just showing up, and we were just learning to walk by faith like we never had before. And Jacob went to, my husband's name is Jacob. I don't know if I said that, but he went to an Outcry event because he was riding with some of the Jesus Culture guys. And he just had this encounter with the Lord that was really amazing. He came back basically a different person. And he just said, God told me we're supposed to be at the Belonging. Just like that. And I was like, okay, great. And, there's a lot of ins and outs to that too. And even like, I mean, it's really, we could spend the whole podcast I could tell you that story, but that's the long and short of it. God just said, this is where I want you to be, where I want you to plug in, where I want you to serve. And it's been a game changer for us, being a part of a house that is, that walks so closely with the Lord, that has no agenda other than just Jesus, and seeing people encounter Jesus. And it's been so refreshing for us. And I just volunteer, once or twice a month. I'll get to lead worship, and it has even elevated my own worship. There's something about, people just show up hungry and expecting God to move. And, like when you get in a room full of people like that, it's like the roof's going to come off every time. And that's kind of what happens. So It's awesome.
Well, you mentioned a couple of times, that you were burned out, issues in your marriage, you got kids, you got global ministry. There's just so much, the pressure on you must have been immense. So, for the rest of the world that looks at you with all of your success, all of your amazing songs, your amazing records. Now you got this new live one recorded there at Belonging Co. But, we look at your life and think, oh, she's just perfect. She's got everything. She's beautiful. She sings great. But here you are talking about pain and burnout and hospitals and healing. And, how does that happen when you're serving Jesus and singing and traveling the world? Isn't that a perfect life?
No, John. Man,
I'm setting you up a little bit there.
You are setting me up. You're setting me up for sure. So, where do I even start? Here's what I know. I wouldn't be who I am today. The person, the wife, the mom, the songwriter, if it weren't for the hard things that I've walked through. If it weren't for the pressure, if it weren't for the disappointment, it wasn't for the disappointment, the heartaches, the unmet expectations. I could tell you so many stories, and I might tell you a couple. But if the things that I say, the things that I teach, the songs that I write, most of the time are forged in a hidden battle, or as something that I'm fighting behind the scenes, whether it's a spiritual attack or it's just something I'm working through in my family, or it's this constant tension between ministry and family, or, sometimes not getting the opportunity that I'd kind of dreamed about. And I'll instead of being so vague, like I'll even share a couple examples. When I first released a record with a record label, so that would have been probably 11 years ago with Word, there was all this kind of buzz around it, around me, and Billboard magazine had done this whole article on, who is Meredith Andrews, blah, blah, blah. And people were really excited. And of course, naturally, I was excited too. And then my record released, and it didn't feel like it lived up to the hype. And I watched other artists that had signed and released records around the same time as me just kind of like immediately take off. And I was just kind of putzing along, or as it felt so for me. And I remember one day I just said to God, kind of out of frustration, I was like, God, I thought you called me to this. And the Lord so tenderly, but just pretty much tenderly slapped me upside the head and said, Meredith, why would you think that just because you didn't sell a certain number of records that I didn't call you to this?
So good.
And that was the beginning of God redefining success in my mind. What does success look like? And I'm a firm believer that success in the kingdom of God isn't about accomplishments or accolades or any of those temporary surface things that the world values. But success in the kingdom of God looks like obedience. And it looks like faithfulness. And it looks like I'm going to show up again and again because this is what God has asked me to do. And it might not be glamorous, but it's what he's put on my life and he's preparing me. And so, for people who think, like, look at my Instagram feed and think, oh, wow, she's got a perfect family and a perfect life. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm so thankful for the grace of God that is at work in my marriage, that is at work in my kids, that is at work in my life. The grace of God that allows me and sustains me and empowers me to do everything that he's put in my hand to do. But my dad always told me, John, growing up, that God will only give you what he can trust you with, and he's going to start small. And, I think we all have dreams and aspirations. And I always say that dreams are from God, and he will outdream us any day. But when I look at, let's say, Joseph in the Old Testament, God gave Joseph a dream when he was 17 years old. That dream was not fulfilled until he was 30 years old. And what happened in between wasn't glamorous. It was anything but that. He was betrayed by his own family and sold into slavery and wrongfully accused and put into prison. But all those things were necessary for his growth and his development and in order to prepare him for what God had for his life. Because if God had said, here's a dream and it's going to happen tomorrow, you're going to be second in command over Egypt, Joseph wouldn't have been able to handle it. It would have crushed him. And so all the hard things, the trials, the unseen, the hiddenness, the waiting, the disappointment, all of that we go through isn't because God is cruel. It's because we live in a fallen world. And it's because Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And the fact that perseverance is being developed in us. Character is being developed in us. Romans 5 talks about that. Hope that doesn't disappoint us is being developed through the trials and the tribulations, not through the easy things. Anybody can walk through something easy and come out like, oh yeah, life's great. It's when we walk through hard situations and we have to cling to God because he's all we have. That's what makes us who we are.
Wow. Well, you're doing some great preaching. I'm ready for an offering and an altar call.
Sorry, I don't have a keyboard here.
No, you're going for it. It's great. I love what you're saying. You got to preaching, and I got so caught up in your faith and the message of God in your own heart that I forgot about the disappointment part.
Oh, right, sure.
Go back in your story.
There's been plenty of that.
I know, right?
Okay, I do have another story, though. Can I tell you another story?
Please.
Because what's interesting is it just came full circle. I've talked to my vertical crew about this because I was, in ministry with them for over 10 years, and they're like family. They'll always be like family to us. But last year or a couple years ago, when we had just kind of stepped out of that and stepped into Nashville and God, what are you calling us to here, and belonging and all that. They were asked to be a part of Outcry. And to be completely honest, that was really hard for me because Outcry had always been a dream for me. And it was like, as soon as we walked away from Vertical, then they were asked to do it. And I was like, but God, that was my dream, you know? And I had to grieve that disappointment. I had listened to a podcast from Melissa Helser around that time, and she was talking about how so many times as Christians we think that the spiritual thing to do when we face disappointment is to just gloss over it and pretend that we're not disappointed. But that couldn't be more detrimental. Like, what we actually need to do is grieve it and sit with it, sit in it for a minute, not wallow in it, but just go, God, this hurt my heart, or this was really hard for me, and I want to move past it, but I just need to sit here and let you like love on me and comfort me for a minute. And I think that's really healthy. And so I did. I had a cry about it, and I was like, all right, God, all right, thank you that now you're going to help me move on and just trust you that you've got something for me, and it might not be outcry, and that's okay, because whatever you have is what you've asked me to do. And what's just so funny is on Monday, I was at Chuck E. Cheese with my kids for one of their little friends' birthday parties, and I got a text saying that I'd been offered 4 dates on Outcry.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, so it just kind of came full circle, you know, and it's not, I'm just filling in for someone at the beginning of May, but I was crying in Chuck E. Cheese, like, God, you see me, like, you see my heart. And I called my husband, and he was like shouting, and like, because he was riding, he's on a riding trip, but anyway, but it's just like the Lord, just to go when we have disappointment or we have something that we really wanted or hoped for, and we just surrender it, and we just say, God, you know better than I know, and your timing is perfect. And so I'm just going to choose to trust you in this. Yeah. And he brings it back around every time. And it might not be the same thing, you know, it didn't have to be Outcry for me necessarily, but I don't know. It's just really sweet of God. And that's what he's like. He looks for opportunities to bless us and to like lavish his love on us, you know? And I find that he does it in the middle of the disappointment when we just surrender and we go, okay, God, I choose to trust you.
Yeah. So this seems like a theme for you, a message. I'm sure you speak about this when you're doing your worship leading. Do you talk between songs and actually bring people into these stories with you?
Yeah, for sure. I don't always tell stories when I'm leading worship. Every now and again, I do like to talk, as you can tell. And I always have a lot to say. So I will often kind of just go with whatever's going on in the moment or whatever the Lord is teaching me in that season. A lot of these stories that I'm sharing with you, I will share when I'm actually teaching. Like I do a lot of worship leader events and conferences, and they'll give me, you know, a slot or two to teach. I talk a lot about being faithful in the little things and how God uses hidden seasons and hard seasons to establish our intimacy with him, our identity with him, and our integrity that will sustain us for the rest of our lives and the rest of the ministry or whatever he's called us to do.
It's fantastic. And that's the bedrock of real worship ministry is just that integrity, the character, the real work of God. And that's why when I get people on the show like this, I want to talk about the real stuff and not, totally. I love all the accolades, love your ministry, love to see.
Oh, John, honestly, I'd rather talk about this all day. I get tired of talking about the accolades and blah, blah, blah. Like, honestly, because like I said, it's not about accomplishments. It's about obedience. And I think that people need to see more of that. They need to see more of like, how do I just serve God and not put it on Instagram? You know, like how do I just be obedient and not think that it's going to necessarily lead to something, but understand that when I honor the Lord and I give him my yes, like that's the best place to stay, the best place to be.
Hey, we're going to take just a quick break from the show so that we can let you in on some amazing things happening around here at Nashville Christian Songwriters. Hey guys, John Chisholm here, and I want to invite you to come hang out with me and some very special friends at the upcoming NCS Weekend Intensive. The NCS Weekend Intensive is a 3-day coaching, teaching, and networking experience where you get to come to Nashville and meet my great pro songwriter and music business friends. People like Kenneth Turner West, who's written over 30 #1 songs, and John Mays, founder and A&R director of Centricity Music, home of great artists like Lauren Daigle, Jason Gray, Johnny Diaz, Andrew Peterson, and so many more. Lifeway Worship's creative director Craig Adams will be joining us in April, as well as the premier live music producer Tom Jackson, who's worked with a bunch of amazing people like Lecrae, Shawn Mendes, Francesca Battistelli, Phillips Craig and Dean, and a budding young talent you might remember, Taylor Swift. We've got 3 hands-on coaching sessions where you get real-time feedback on your songs to get you to the next level, and our stellar clinicians bring you world-class teaching to empower and inspire you like never before. And these events fill up fast, so we're offering a pre-registration option where you can register early and save $100, and that's a great deal for anybody. NCS Weekend Intensives are happening in April, July, and October, so you can get to the one that's right for you. Just jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com, click the Weekend Intensive link to read about it, and pre-register today. Hey, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you soon at the NCS Weekend Intensive. Well, I just hope that you'll take advantage of that and check it out. All right? We bring you good stuff here on the Song Revolution podcast. So back to our episode. Other than the Word, I know you're in the Word, but what do you read? What feeds your creativity and just your soul?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I go in waves, really. Like, I'll have seasons where I listen to a lot of music, and then I'll have seasons where I listen to just podcasts. If I just get burned out on music, honestly. Yeah. And then I read this book recently called Anonymous, and it changed my life. It's called, it's Anonymous by Alicia Britt Cole, and the subtitle is Jesus' Hidden Years and Yours. And it just talks about how Jesus lived his life in he lived 90% of his life in obscurity. So 30 years in hiddenness, 3 years public ministry, which in our, day and age, cultural Christianity, that would probably be considered a failure, And yet what God was doing in those 30 years as Jesus was just getting to know the heart of his Father and growing in wisdom and stature, it was necessary, So anyway, that was just a book that popped in my head. I don't get to read a ton just because life is a little crazy, but when I go on vacations or on planes, that's when usually my time to read. So
have you discovered audible.com?
No. Tell me.
Oh my gosh, I have just blessed you. I've just changed.
Are you amazing? It's like audiobooks?
You're going to love me forever. Yeah.
I bet I will.
Audible.com. I listen to 3 or 4 books a week on Audible.
Are you serious?
Oh, totally serious. Sometimes I'll listen to a book 3 or 4 times. One book 3 or 4 times if I'm trying to get it, or 3 or 4 books. And it's changing my life totally because I'm a songwriter coach. And so
awesome.
I'm always trying to up my game, with the coaching thing and dealing with you're dealing with people's souls when you're dealing with their songs, right?
Right.
So I'm always in the headspace of how can I help bring the best out of this person without hurting their feelings,
right.
and help them really tap into the depths, the depths of creativity that God put in them, right? And bring out the best.
Totally.
That's what I'm trying to do. So I listen to a ton of stuff, and man, I've got 15 coaching books on my phone that I just go back through time and again. So,
amazing. Audible.com.
Yeah. So the other one is Blinklist.com. That's an app, Blinklist, and it actually gives you, it's like Cliff Notes. It gives you the bullet points of all these books. So like in 12 minutes, you can get the gist of an entire book. And so
amazing.
I know. So I work with a lot of writers, and so I'm always saying, read and listen, read and listen.
Yeah, right.
You've got to give yourself choices. And so when I'm talking with someone such as yourself that is prolific, and of course you've got a lot of great co-writers as well. You're kind of in that, Phil Wickham, your husband, Jacob, and so many great people that we could sit here and name. It's like, you have to have your radar up for those great ideas, but have resources and a well to draw from.
Absolutely.
Right? That's why I asked the reading question. What are you reading? What are you listening to?
Yeah, that's really good. I need to be reading more. Got it. Audible.com and Blinklist.
Yeah.
I've got a writing session tomorrow. I'm going to go do some research on those places. It'll help me.
You should. I know, right? Awesome. Anyway, enough about that. Now, do you feel that we've been talking about your character, learning in the disappointments, really walking deeply with the Lord in marriage and parenting and just in who you are as a human, right?
Yeah.
So is there a central theme? I mean, I'm seeing a theme in that, but is there anything else that is a theme for you in your teaching and that kind of permeates your ministry, your worship leading?
I think it's maybe more of the same of the being faithful in the little things.
Right.
It's really just like I breezed over this a second ago, but the three things that I feel like God has said to me about like how do I remain faithful in the little? How do I understand the value of this in the kingdom of God, even though it might not be valued, anywhere else? But I think there's three things that kind of come under that. Intimacy with God has to be first. That's your primary foundation. And then you build from there, because intimacy will always be the foundation. Do I know the heart of God? Do I know what he's like? Am I spending time with him, not just praying and pouring out my heart to him, but listening, listening for his voice and asking him, what is he on? And what is he asking me to do? And what is he doing in me? What is he calling me to? And then secondly, identity. Our identity is established in that place of intimacy. Our identity is established not in our role, the songs we write, the people we surround ourselves with. Our identity isn't in, the little title underneath our name on our email or our position or anything like that, or even what people have said over us, whether positive or negative. Our identity is found in what does God say about me? And that's another practice, like another a thing that we can do practically of just sitting with the Lord and just going, God, who do you say that I am? What do you say about me? What do you see when you look at me? And write down the words that come to your mind. Like, I don't think we have to be so freaked out. Like, Holy Spirit's always speaking, And so we just quiet our hearts and listen for a little bit. He'll say some pretty extraordinary things. And then thirdly is an integrity. I want to be single-minded in my focus, not divided or double-minded. I want to do what I say. Let my yes be yes and my no be no. And so those are just kind of maybe people who like outlines. That helps them is 3 I words, because that helps me. And I just think that those three things are so important and they're so foundational for everything that we do, whether it's public ministry or whether it's parenting.
Exactly. The 2 P's, public ministry,
yes,
parenting.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, well, listen, as we wrap up, I know that we do want to mention the new EP, Faith and Wonder, live. Great songs. Love it. A Million Saints, Faith and Wonder, with Abby Simmons and Cody Ray Lee, Open Over Us. Have to have. I like that song. Interesting title.
Yeah, me too. That's my favorite.
On and On. Who could?
Uh-huh.
I think that's it. Produced by your hubby, Jacob Sutter. And so what do you want to say anything specifically about it? I definitely recommend everybody run out and stream it or buy it, however you consume your music, because it's awesome. But anything that you want to say about it real quick, Meredith?
Well, just that, it is my first live worship project that I've ever done. And so I was it kind of freaked me out at first. The thought of doing it and carrying it. I mean, obviously it wasn't by myself. Jacob produced it, and, had all these people around me and my team and band and all of that. But I think, John, more than anything, like, I don't want this just to be like another Meredith Andrews project. I want it to be somewhat of a vehicle to take people to deeper places in their worship, deeper places in the presence of God, where they encounter him and know how loved they are by him, and their worship is elevated accordingly. Because that's what worship is. It's really just a response to, like, when we see who God is and what he's done for us, I just go, this is my only right response. Not just a little song here and there, but like my extravagant worship, my whole heart, my whole life. He is worthy of it, regardless of my feelings or my circumstances. And I'm just hoping that these songs are a resource for people to usher them into that place where they can experience the love and the presence of God.
That's awesome. Well, it definitely does. And I've only been one time through the whole thing, but definitely sense the anointing on that, and just the power of what the Lord was doing through you and through everyone. I mean, it takes a whole team, and
That's right.
I'm glad you felt that support. And it's, songs start in such an intimate place in your heart and your life. And when that can be felt, when it really comes across that way, I think it's a kingdom success. So thank you. I would like to just take a moment and acknowledge you. You've had you've been in ministry now over a decade. You've definitely impacted millions and millions of people around the world, including me and my family. We've loved you.
Wow.
We loved your music and your heart, and we could always tell. And our mutual friend Kevin, always told me that you're a great person. So I knew there was sincerity and authenticity behind the ministry. But I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for your contribution and your obedience, and for plumbing the depths of your character and your soul to bring the best offering that really does impact people. And I'm one of them, and we've sung your songs and loved you from afar. So thank you on behalf of our family and the world. I think sometimes, we don't feel, I don't know, like you said, I mean, struggling with the burnout and all, just the pressure of everything. We don't have that moment of, like, we know we're doing well. We know there's certain affirmations and things coming back at us, but just in the spirit of Christ, just in a quiet kingdom moment that we're having here on a podcast, I want to honor you and acknowledge you and just take a moment.
Thank you, John.
To express that. So that's it, man. Thank you. And how do you like to best interact? You've got your website. I mean, is there a favorite way you like to interact with people that are following your ministry?
Sure. Well, I'm probably more involved on Instagram than anywhere else. That's what I forget to check my Twitter and my Facebook a lot. Probably on my Instagram. But just thank you for saying all that. I received that, and I appreciate it very much. And really, it's just like I can't believe that God lets me write songs for his people, and I'm really honored and humbled by that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Meredith, thank you so much for being on our show.
For sure. Thanks for having me, John.
We wish you all the best. We'll be praying for you, and maybe somewhere down the road we can have you on again and get an update on how things are going.
Sounds good. I'd love that.
All right, dear. You're precious. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening in today on the Song Revolution podcast. If you're wanting to take your songwriting to the next level, be sure to jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com right now to check out all the valuable resources that we have there for you, especially NCS membership, where you can go deeper into a community of like-minded songwriters and tap into encouraging blogs, videos, powerful masterclasses, and a whole lot more to get you where you really want to go. I'll see you next time.